Welcome to Ask Bill and Dan, the call-in show that aims to answer your questions about cameras, computers, and just about everything in between. Here are your hosts, Bill Wadman and Dan Gottesman.
How you doing, Dan? We're back for episode 2. You ready to do this thing?
I am. Let's do it.
All right.
So we have John from California on the line. What is your question?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking on my call. I have a question for my work here. I have to take some department headshots. They've told me to put together a shopping list, and I was kind of wondering what my list should look like. Light-wise, should I go with a soft lighter, which I like using, and just go with the one light, or should I go with two lights? I want it to be, it's got to be like a yearbook style photo, but I want it to be a little bit something extra.
A little bit something extra. You got some more description of what that would be?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just kind of want to look like, I don't want it looking like yearbook. I just want somebody to go, oh, it's a yearbook photo, but there's something else. Like I don't know, maybe like a backlight, like a hairlight type thing, or
Sure.
Some type of light on the backdrop. It would be a backdrop type thing with the American flag next to it.
Okay.
Since I work at a police department, so
You know, it's interesting because Obama's official photo for the second term was one big soft light.
Yeah.
Or, one big softbox to the left with an 85 millimeter lens on a 5D. It was just like something really basic. So, I mean, you could go really basic. You could go with a single big light source, like a softbox or a soft lighter, that kind of thing. It's funny though, like the minute you start getting a little more complex, where let's say you got a softbox upper right to the camera, and then behind the subject on the opposite side, you got them like a little kicker for a rim light, kind of hair light from up above coming down on them from the other side. Sort of what I tend to think of as like a pinup lighting kind of look.
right.
You could do that easily with two lights, but then the background's a little boring. So maybe you need like a little gridded speedlight on the American flag to make that pop a little bit. The point is that you could easily multiply out of control, and then you need 4 or 5 lights to make what you're trying to do.
Right. So with this sort of situation, my first question before we even get into specific pieces of equipment, the first question I would ask is, do you have a working budget in mind?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Money is going to factor in.
He's like $47,000. What can you do?
Well, I work for a city municipality, so I've got to keep the budget.
So $26. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, no. So
Well, you also, the other question is like reproducibility. If you have to do this all the time,
would be the next. So the first question, I mean, with a situation like this, is A, let's put together some sort of a budget to constrain ourselves, and then B, we should design something that for this particular task, which you said is going to be a repeatable. You want to be able to get consistent results from multiple setups from multiple sessions. So you want something that's going to be, and I'm guessing you're not going to be able to leave it set up all the time. You're going to have to tear it down and set it up again. So you want something that's going to be reasonably easy to replicate, right?
Right. And the budget, I would say, if it's just best guess, probably 700-ish, definitely under $1,000.
Okay,
for sure.
And this would be your own camera. You just need the lights.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So you've already got your camera. You've already got your lens.
Correct.
And now, do you have any existing equipment as far as flash or stands?
I do have a soft lighter myself. I don't want to bring that in every day and tear it down. I have backdrop equipment and that kind of stuff. But I'd like to leave the lights there, and then we would just bring in cameras as we needed to. Where I work, we have a few cameras also that we can use. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good.
I mean, hey, you can buy decent little manual speed lights for what, like $150 now?
So let's talk a little bit more specific now. So you're talking about doing headshots, right? You want to, and these are like, I'm guessing, waist up at most, if not tighter.
Correct. Probably a little tighter, maybe chest, sternum type.
Okay. No, that's great. But please continue. Is there another scenario you're envisioning?
And then for new employees that come in also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everybody's, because it's been a few years.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 600 or so employees here.
Wow.
That's a lot.
I know. And then new employees that come in as they come in, so we don't have to do this big shot again.
Sure.
So what we're going to need to do is probably, do something like you said, replicable, and then something that's not too complex in case somebody else needs to do it.
I mean, if I were to do it, I would say I'd say keep it simple, just because of the reproducibility and having to set it up all the time. You know, one really nice soft key light up front. So maybe it's a 45 or a 60-inch soft lighter if you have room for it. And then something on the background, maybe on the flag, sort of on the opposite side in the background, that kind of thing. And then you can just use a reflector or something in the middle. I mean, if you want to get a little fancy, you could get another little Speedlight or something with like a grid or a what's the word I'm looking for? Snoot. To come down for the, you know, cute little boop on the top of their heads to you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So for this kind of setup, because, and I'm focusing in here on the fact that we're only shooting one person at a time.
Yep.
And we're going to be really close to the camera. So that gives us a ton of flexibility.
Yep.
Because we do not need a ton of light for that kind of shot. So that means we can get a little bit more creative using smaller, less powerful, less expensive lights.
I'm assuming it's in a small white room too.
It probably will be. I haven't found a space yet, but that's what I'm aiming for.
Yeah, I mean, there's advantages there too, because if you're in a relatively small white room, you kind of have reflectors built in with the walls, you know. This
is true.
So, I mean, if you have a light on one side, it's not like the other side's not going to automatically fill itself in, as it were. So, you know.
That's true.
But the problem with the downside of that is that you also don't really have the ability, unless you want to do crazy things and blacken out stuff, of not having more dramatic lighting. You know what I mean? It's going to fill in and be very bright no matter what you do. Right. Unless you fight against that.
So, yeah. So I guess coming around, I would say here to aim your search for affordable Speedlights.
Yeah.
My go-to, generally speaking, I'm a huge fan of finding stuff on eBay. I'm a big advocate of going used. I can understand that for a professional situation, that might not be as well accepted. There are definitely some really awesome things coming out of China, of all places.
Yeah.
What's that company? Is it YONGNUO?
Yeah, with the little Speedlights.
Yeah, the ones that David Hobby collaborated with those guys, Mr. Strobist.
Yep.
He's been working with these guys, and I think they're in their second or maybe even third generation. These things are surprisingly powerful and robust feature-wise, and really not that expensive.
No, they're not bad at all.
They're like less than $200 or $300.
They're the kind of things that I wouldn't want to drop 10 times and then still have them work. But like in a situation like,
would you rather have 3 of those or just one?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Flagship?
Yeah. And I mean, even like, you know, you go on Amazon right now and you could find like all these companies like Newer and ePhoto. These aren't super high end things, but if all you need is a little 30-inch octabox with a grid, that is also, you know, they're $40, $50. You know, we're not talking about. I mean, even the cheap soft lighters, I think, start at what, like $80 or $90 for the small one.
No, less than that.
Is it really?
Yeah, less than that. I want to say I got mine for like more like $50.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of soft lighters.
Yeah, it's a great
the
look.
only thing about soft lighters that I don't like is that it's hard to contain the spill.
It's true.
You know, there's no easy way to grid them.
No.
And I think that's like the one sort of Achilles heel that I have in my own usage. Like lately I've been I've been gridding my lights a lot more to try to contain stuff.
Of course.
So, I mean, that's just one thing to think about in your situation where the more spill, the more fill you're going to get.
There you go, right.
But also bear in mind, he's going for a little bit more, not as stylized a look, I'm guessing, because this is a little bit more on the.
But he
does
want it to have a little something.
Well, you can, seasoned to taste. My hunch is if I had to choose between spending a lot of money on a modifier that I could grid versus getting 2 smaller, simpler modifiers, I'd probably go the 2 route just because I'd have that much more light to work with.
I have found though that like a light on the subject, having a background light of some kind, controlling what the background looks like, is probably a better bang for your buck than a second light on the person if you can.
Yeah.
You know, one light on the person, one light on the background in some sort of combination, and then if you want to add a third light on the opposite side in the back, say as a rim or a hair light or something on the person. 2, 3 lights tops, play around with that. And then you know what you do? You write down all of the settings on all the lights. So that setting them up becomes just like a rote thing of like, oh, switch this to where the little mark is on it. That kind of thing.
Right. What you can do, I mean, and we do this in the real world, is you make a little chart or a little top-down diagram. And then, especially in a
with distances,
a bulk portrait situation like you're talking here, just jotting down your heights, where the light is from the distance from the ground, from the camera.
You want somebody else to be able to reproduce it without you there.
Exactly, and then you just use your phone and snap a quick shot of the actual setup itself, just so you can see what it looks like. The other thing, I had one other thing I was going to say, and I completely forgot what it was.
I don't know. I lost you on that one.
We'll have to pause here.
All right.
What was it? It'll come back to me in a second here.
Is that kind of answering your question?
No, yeah, that's perfect. I love the input.
I mean, it's tricky just because it's infinitely variable stuff here. You know what I mean? Like you could buy a little. You could buy a couple Alien Bs for $120 or $225 a piece.
Yeah, so
and stands and a couple of things. I mean, you're still around $800, and that would be a nice little kit too.
Yeah. So I remember what I was going to say. We're also, while we've already kind of covered lights and we've talked about modifiers. One thing you're also going to want to think about are stands, and I'm a pretty big fan of the little Manfrotto 5-section,
the little 6-foot.
Yeah, they like a little higher than that. I think they go 7 and change.
Do they go higher?
A little bit.
Okay.
They're for this kind of stuff, especially if we're talking to Speedlights and you're indoors.
Yep. That's the other advantage of the soft lighters versus soft boxes. That the sort of the center of gravity is at the light and not
hanging
tipping.
over it.
Yeah, not hanging off it. Yeah.
And not to mention they collapse and they don't take up as much room.
True.
And they're really nice and portable. If you think about this, you could put 3 of those little 5-section stands, 2 umbrella-based soft lighters in a really small, compact duffel bag or backpack.
My to-go kit is one of those little Pelican cases, like the 1510, with camera, 2 lenses, 3 Speedlights, 2 Speedlight stands, and 2 30-inch soft lighters. I fit in a bag that I roll. Yeah, that'll fit in coach.
Yeah, and that right there. I mean, say for the camera equipment, you're even with the case, it's well under $1,000.
Yeah, so there you go, right there.
I mean, depending on the lights that you're using.
There's your kit, John.
Yeah, something like that.
You just take my kit.
The one last thing that we can talk about that Bill did bring up is electricity and power. The one downside to using Speedlights is that they are battery based, and they run on AA's. And if you're doing a day's worth of shooting, you're gonna need to change your batteries from time to time. Yeah. Whereas with monolights like Alien Bs, which are fantastic for bang for buck.
For the money, it's like ridiculous.
It's kind of nice, and then you're going to get a lot more light, and you'll be able to plug them into the wall. But they are also bigger. That is about as heavy as a light as I would feel comfortable putting on a 5-section stand.
And I do. And then the only other thing I'd say about those is that soft lighters and Alien Bs, the Alien Bs are kind of large.
It's true.
So for the really small soft lighters, it's hard to fit the thing over. It's fine for the larger ones. But anyway, these are all just like little specific things.
Yeah, you could probably get your hands on Alien Bs on eBay for not a lot of money, because a lot of people upgrade. That's a very popular.
They hold their value though.
They do. That's a very popular starter light. I'm also a huge fan. Actually, the lights that I personally own are the old
white lightnings.
The white lightnings, the aluminum ones, the X series,
which are made by the same company as Alien Bs. It's sort of like their step up brand back in the day.
Imagine Alien Bs that were made out of aluminum instead of out of plastic. That's basically it. And you can get those for comparable, really reasonable
$200
prices.
a piece.
Yeah, not bad at all. So that's worth looking into.
That's what I was going to go with. I was thinking about the Alien Bs because of the batteries and with all of the photos, and so I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. It's. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no wrong way to do this. I mean, the problem is you have literally too many choices. So you need to really think about that. And then I guess the very, very last thing on the top of all this is getting the lights to talk to one another as far as triggering is concerned. What's nice about the Alien Bs is that they all have optical slaves in them.
So you really use a little built-in speed light on your camera at super low power.
You can do that if you have a consumer, or not consumer, as long as you don't have a D4, a Nikon flagship or Canon flagship that don't have built-in pop-up flashes. You can also always use the PC port, the flash sync
cable,
port.
old school.
Which is one less thing to worry about as far as radios and batteries and stuff like that. I mean, I love pocket wizards and radio remotes; they're super useful. But
sync cable backup.
Yeah, but if I had to choose between one or the other, if I had desert island situation, I would choose the cable every time.
Yeah,
sure. All right, perfect. I love that.
All right, you think we actually helped John out, or you think we just made him more confused?
I like to think that we're not gonna help it. We're not gonna solve everybody's problem.
Yeah.
Everyone's problems in 10 minutes. But I feel like he's in a better place now than he was before, and he has some stuff to think about.
There's just a lot of options.
Yeah.
I think our next question is about selling gear, which I know you're a big fan of the eBay thing. So
I am.
It's going to be interesting to see what she has to say.
I have some experience in this department.
Yeah. Ellen, how you doing today?
Great. How are you doing?
We're doing super. So you have a good question for us today?
I hope so. Can I give a little backstory on this?
Sure, absolutely.
Please.
All right. So growing up, I was kind of like the Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off in terms of being able to touch my dad's camera equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a bunch of Leica equipment, and he would always take family pictures of us. And recently, I've gotten really into photography, and as this grand gesture for Christmas this year, my dad gave me his old Leica equipment to resell in order to pay for whatever camera equipment I may need for whatever I'm going to do with photography, which unfortunately does not include film cameras or Leicas.
Wow.
So it is with a heavy heart that I must sell this equipment.
Okay.
And I would like to, honor this gift by selling it, in kind of a worthy fashion and really getting the most out of it. And I've been told by friends that going to like B&H or one of these big chains, they're going to just rip you off because they know they can, because you don't really have many other options, which leaves me with eBay or Craigslist as, it stands. So that's my question. How do I best sell this wonderful equipment?
That is a good question. Dan,
Yes.
what do you think?
Yeah, that is a toughie. But before we get too into the how to sell things, because I think we should definitely talk about how selling things works. One thing I'm just curious if you'd considered is you can actually use all of those lenses with modern day
On a nice Leica
cameras.
digital body.
It's true. And so really the only, piece of that collection that might be worth replacing is the body. So I'm just curious, how many, can you tell me a little bit more? Do you have a bunch of lenses? How many pieces in this collection?
Yeah. Okay. So I have an M6 camera body,
Sure.
which circa 1990, I guess it's what I've seen on eBay. They're going for 1,400, 1,300.
Right.
And then I have a 28 millimeter lens and a 90 millimeter lens.
Okay.
And I do have these lenses for my camera already.
You already have those focal lengths. I got it.
What I was kind of more hoping to do with the money was to buy both a backup camera for, if mine fails while I'm out shooting on a job, and to pay for maybe classes where I can, kind of develop my skills.
Yeah. It also is interesting. You're lucky that he gave you Leica gear, because had he given you an old Canon or an old Nikon, like a lot of the stuff that your average person has from 20, 30 years ago, it's worth very, very little. The one nice thing about Leica stuff is that those lenses are probably worth as much as they were when he bought them, or maybe even a little more, depending on when they were. So, so you have a big advantage right there.
So you sort of partially answered one of the other questions I had, which was I wasn't sure with your initial explanation. I wasn't fully aware that you had an existing digital system that you were looking to augment. So you're not in the position where you have this one system and you're looking to replace it with a completely different one. You already have a digital setup that you're looking to upgrade a little bit, right?
Yeah. And I'm looking to get a few specific lenses, like a macro lens. There's just I have kind of a wish list of things that I'd like to own.
Yeah.
And, this is, and the other amazing thing, thanks to my dad raising me like Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, is that they're all pretty
pristine,
mint.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
So but it's hard to kind of it's Craigslist. There's the stranger danger with eBay. It's kind of, I feel like the other sellers I'm seeing are like actual camera stores, and I haven't ever sold anything personally on there. So
Right.
I don't know if buyers would really trust me. So I'm a little bit at a loss how to.
You have an advantage in the sense that you live in New York City, which means there are a lot of people who will probably buy them from you in a Craigslist kind of situation.
It's true.
Right.
Better than if you were living in Podunk, whatever, Iowa, where it's like there's no one around, right? You're right, though, that if you go to B&H or you go to KEH, where I buy a lot of used stuff from KEH,
they're
their
amazing.
stuff's great.
Yeah.
But they're going to give you a wholesale price. So if a lens is worth $1,000, they'll offer you $600 because they need to make money off the deal in the long run. So
exactly.
If you go and sell it on Craigslist or eBay, maybe you get $900 or $950 or maybe the $1,000 or maybe even more if you're lucky. It is more of a pain in the butt to like deal with the people, especially eBay with high-end stuff that costs a lot of money like that. You have a lot more scammers buying the thing and then giving you the whole, oh, can you send it here? And I'm going to give you a different address for this. And, we're going to, all that kind of stuff that,
So you think Craigslist is actually maybe the safer bet?
If it were me, I'd go Craigslist.
I would agree. I've actually been in that position a handful of times. I've sold a bunch of gear over the years, and generally speaking, the higher the cost, the more I will lean towards Craigslist. Another reason that Bill didn't mention is that eBay and PayPal also take a percentage
True, they take
of the
a cut.
sale, and so if your thing is $2,000, that's $200 that that gets sliced away for eBay and PayPal at least, which is money that you could have just held on to yourself.
I've done a number of deals where I worked with somebody on Craigslist and say, okay, we'll meet up at this cafe at this time, and you both sit down at a table in a public place, and they look at the lenses and they go, okay, you can haggle, and it's a little bit more of a one-on-one relationship. And if as a woman you feel uncomfortable, if you know some guy or another girl who can go with you, bring a friend.
Absolutely. You can, and if you do a little bit of Googling, fortunately, again, Craigslist is not new, and I guarantee you can find some really great how to handle a Craigslist transaction guides on there. I mean, we can go into details here, but I feel like your time would be better spent, at your own pace doing some research. The long and the short of it is, though, just to summarize what Bill said, the fact that you're based in New York City is a huge advantage because there are lots of Leica freaks here in New York, and the odds of getting someone who knows what they're looking for and knows what what you're selling is worth, you'll probably get a good deal. Now that the one other thing I might just throw in to consider, and this does require a little bit more legwork, but this is another just good thing to think about when you're talking about buying and selling special equipment. Chances are there are websites out there that are specifically about Leica cameras, right? So there's probably a handful of Leica aficionado, nut websites, and most of those sites have maybe not most of them, but I guarantee you there are one or two, if not more, forums, like bulletin board type services out there where Leica nerds nerd out on Leica stuff. And in my experience, again, I'm not a Leica guy, so I can't name any of them off the top of my head, but I would be very surprised if these forums didn't have a for sale board where people post, hey, I've got one of these, and then that way it's a little bit more personal, it's a little bit more again a little bit more specific.
And those kinds of things you could also, and especially like a Leica forum, if you took pictures of this stuff and said, hey, my dad gave this to me, like, you guys have any thoughts about, like, a lot of those people are super nerdy in a good, helpful way where they'll be like, oh yeah, you should, that one's worth a lot of money because of this reason, because this year they used titanium on the focus ring, or, whatever the little slight weird nerdy thing that you would never know kind of thing.
It's true.
So you have, the point is that you have a lot of options, and with the Leica thing, you have even more options just because there are these communities out there that are very supportive. But yeah, I think anything else we want to wrap up, Dan?
No, I think that's the general starting point advice. I mean, again, we can go into minute details about how to handle yourself during a Craigslist transaction and all that fun stuff. But
that would make great radio.
But no, the summary here is yes. Craigslist is probably your best bet. A face-to-face transaction, cash in hand. Definitely do a little bit of research so that you know exactly. You have a really good idea of what you've got and what it's worth.
Yeah.
And it could be worth your time to try and find some enthusiasts, some people who are specifically interested in that stuff. They might be able to save you some time and make your life a little easier.
That's a good question. Thank you so much, Ellen.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, Dan, has your father left you an M6 with some really nice glass?
No. I mean, I got some nice stuff from my dad.
Yeah.
I have some old Nikkor glass from the 60s.
And you still use it?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Yeah. Not as often as I used to. My favorite lens of his is an old 105-25, which is kind of a nice.
It's a macro, right?
They make a 105-28 macro.
Oh, okay.
And I have one of those, but that's not. That's a newer one. That's like from the 80s. This is an old silver and black one with a super buttery aperture ring.
Okay.
And it has the old coatings, and it just has a sort of nice kind of a warm softness to it.
It's amazing how much those coatings make a difference. Maybe somebody will actually call in one day with a question about vintage lenses, and we can get into all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. But until then, we'll see you next week.
Yes, sir.
If you'd like to submit a question of your own, head over to AskBillAndDan.com, where you'll also find our archive, links and show notes, and details about supporting the show. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at Ask Bill and Dan.